If you think pickleball is just a casual neighborhood barbecue game, played with an oversized ping pong paddle, well, you have probably never stood at the kitchen line against someone who actually knows what they're doing.
Oh, definitely not. It's a completely different world at that level.
Right, because the second you step onto the court with a high-level player, that friendly, welcoming facade just vanishes. You realize very quickly that you aren't playing like a casual weekend hobby. You are trapped in this landscape of brutal geometry, rapid-fire decisions, and what honestly feels like tactical combat.
It is the absolute definition of a wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
The sport lulls you in with the plastic wiffle-like ball and, the goofy terminology.
Yeah, like bink and kitchen.
Exactly. But beneath that surface, it demands incredibly precise biomechanics and spatial awareness.
Which is actually our entire mission for this deep dive. Today, we're looking at a comprehensive guide called Pickleball Court Intelligence, From First Game to Winning Techniques by Lev Nemotin. And it features the on-court coaching of someone known as Master Charlie.
Yeah, Master Charlie really breaks it down.
He does. And we are going to unpack the hidden logic of the court, how to prime your nervous system for it, and finally, how to unleash these highly calculated offensive weapons.
What's fascinating here is this source treats pickleball not just as a sport, but as a neuromuscular operating system.
I love that phrasing.
Right. It's a game that actively punishes impatience. It punishes vanity. I mean, if you just walk out there and try to hit the ball as hard as you can out of sheer ego, the court's dimensions will just make a fool out of you.
100%.
The entire system rewards positioning, patience, and honestly applied physics.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the geography of the court itself. Because before you can swing a paddle effectively, you have to understand the paddle field you're standing on. So let's look at the kitchen line.
Yeah, the famous kitchen.
Right, we all know the basic rule. You can't step into that 7-foot non-volley zone and, hit the ball out of the air. But because of that restriction, I feel like a lot of players treat the kitchen like a moat.
Oh, totally. They stay far away from it.
Exactly, they hang back. But I want to push back on that, because Master Charlie insists the kitchen line is the absolute control room of the entire court. If we aren't allowed to hit volleys inside of it, why are we fighting tooth and nail to stand with our toes right on the edge of it?
Well, it really comes down to the geometry of power and time. I mean, in tennis or golf, power is generated through this massive mechanical windup. You gather energy and release it.
Right, you take a huge swing.
Exactly. But in pickleball, power doesn't come from swinging harder from the back fence. Power comes from taking time and space away from your opponent.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because the court is only 20 feet wide and 44 feet long.
Yeah.
When you are standing way back at the baseline, your opponent has this massive cone of open space in front of you.
So they have all day to plan their shot.
Precisely. They have seconds to let the ball drop, find an angle, and just manipulate your position.
So by moving up to the kitchen line, I'm physically suffocating their angles.
You are. You're shrinking the court.
Because if we are both at the line, the distance between us shrinks to just 14 feet. Right.
I see what you mean. A ball they could have easily dropped at my feet from 44 feet away is now something I can just reach out and block out of the air.
You're effectively cutting their reaction time down to fractions of a second. The paddle becomes a physical wall they have to navigate around. When you command the kitchen line, you dictate the pressure of the entire rally.
But getting to that penthouse suite, it requires crossing what the tech calls the dead zone.
Ah, yes. The dead zone.
Right, that 15-foot stretch between the baseline and the kitchen. The guide compares the dead zone to a highway median. It's a place you pass through, never a place you unpack your furniture and hang out.
A highway median is honestly the perfect way to look at it. The dead zone gives you the disadvantages of both ends of the court and the advantages of neither.
Wow, that's a brutal way to put it.
But it's true. If you linger there, you are violating the fundamental physics of the game. Because if I'm standing in the middle of the court, any decent shot from my opponent is going to land right at my feet. I'm too far back to take it out of the air as a volley, but I'm too close to let it bounce and take it comfortably at waist height.
Exactly. Gravity just takes over. The ball drops, and suddenly you are forced to make this awkward upward half volley.
And that's when things go wrong.
Right, because your weight falls backward, your paddle face opens up toward the sky, and you end up popping the ball up perfectly for your opponent to just crush.
So you basically serve it up to them on a silver platter.
Pretty much.
Yep.
I mean, most points don't end with a spectacular overhead smash in the baseline. They die quietly because someone got paralyzed in the dead zone and hit a weak, upward reset.
Which means moving backward to the baseline should really only ever be a desperate tactical retreat, not a default resting position. But avoiding the dead zone isn't just a physical decision, is it? It's heavily dictated by the unique rhythm of the rules.
Very much so.
Like, we all know the two-bounce rule. The serve has to bounce and the return has to bounce. But strategically, that rule completely neutralizes the serving team's natural advantage.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the two-bounce rule is really the foundational engine of pickleball strategy. It was specifically engineered to kill the serve and volley tactic that dominates tennis.
So the serving team can't just serve and immediately charge the net.
Legally, they cannot.
Right.
They have to let the return bounce.
So it completely flips the script. The receiving team, even though they are defending the serve, actually gains the first positional advantage.
Yes, exactly.
Because they only have to wait for the serve to bounce. Once they hit their return, they are free to initiate what the text calls the fast return rush.
Which is a great term.
Yeah, sprinting straight to the kitchen line to build that wall we talked about.
Leaving the serving team in a complete structural trap. I mean, the servers are stuck at the baseline waiting for the return to bounce, while the receivers are already looming over the net.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. Driving the ball hard and flat from the baseline against two players at the kitchen line is tactical suicide. It'll just block it straight down at your feet.
Which forces the serving team to build a bridge. And that bridge is the third shot drop.
The most famous shot in the game.
Right. Since you can't blast your way through the wall, you hit a soft, high-arcing shot mathematically designed to land softly inside the opponent's kitchen. Because it lands in that non-volley zone, they can't smash it out of the air. They have to let it bounce.
And the brilliance of the third shot drop is that it isn't an attack at all. It is purely a relocation tactic.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, the ball floating through the air and bouncing in the kitchen buys the serving team the literal 3 seconds they need to safely cross the dead zone and join the opponents at the line.
But the geometry of this rhythm changes pretty drastically depending on player count, doesn't it? Like, in singles, you are covering that entire 20 by 44-foot rectangle completely by yourself.
It's exhausting.
I bet if you hit a sharp cross-court angle but it pulls your momentum out of bounds, you've likely just lost the point because the whole opposite side of your court is entirely undefended.
Right. In singles, every single shot requires a built-in recovery plan. You are the only wall. But in doubles, the game shifts from individual recovery to managing shared space.
Now, I have to bring up the dreaded middle in doubles. It's the ultimate friendship tester.
Oh, absolutely.
I've seen so many points lost because a ball flicks right down the center and both partners just freeze staring at it, assuming the other person is going to take it. But I want to push back a little. It's not just a lack of communication, though, is it? It's a structural vulnerability.
It really is. The text refers to the space between partners as the seam, and it is the prime target for advanced opponents. To defend it, a good doubles team has to move together like a sliding door.
A sliding door, so you're always connected.
Exactly. If a shot pulls your partner out wide to the left sideline, you cannot just stand your ground on the right side of the court. You must slide over to the left with them to keep that middle seam closed.
Even if it leaves the right side open.
Yes, you can cede the far right sideline to protect the center. Because a shot down the middle is a much higher percentage for your opponent than a pinpoint, low-margin shot down the line.
So you stay connected so open space doesn't just magically appear for free. But navigating that sliding door or rushing the kitchen without getting caught in the dead zone, I mean, that isn't just a mental choice.
Not at all.
The physical toll on the lower body is massive if you aren't moving efficiently. We see so many blown Achilles and twisted knees because players treat the court like a track meet.
And the text puts a really heavy emphasis on structural integrity and safety. Pickleball movement is short, sharp, and constant.
Right.
For instance, defending a lob, the instinct is to just stare up at the sky and backpedal blindly. That is a recipe for falling backward and fracturing a wrist, or worse, suffering a concussion.
You have to physically turn your hips and run backward, tracking the ball over your shoulder. And when defending those low balls dropping at your feet in the dead zone, it's all about dropping your center of gravity. You know, widen the stance, drop the hips.
Because if you just hinge at the waist and let your knees cave inward...
Right, you are putting this panic-induced twisting load on joints that are simply not meant to handle it.
Exactly. You're sacrificing your joints for a single point, which is never worth it.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, though. Once we are safely positioned at the line, 13 feet away from the opponent, Everyone talks about having fast hands.
Oh, the legendary fast hands.
Right. It's talked about like it's a genetic trait, like you either have twitch muscle fibers or you don't. But the text completely redefines this concept, moving away from genetic reflexes entirely.
Yeah, the guide actually argues that fast hands is a bit of a myth. What you are actually seeing in elite players is neuromuscular readiness.
Meaning what exactly?
Well, if your opponent fires a ball at you from 14 feet away, you physically do not have the time to take a massive backswing. If your paddle is resting down by your knees, your hands can be lightning fast, but you will still be late to the ball.
So it's not about moving faster, it's about starting closer to the destination.
Spot on. Master Charlie's ready position dictates that the paddle lives up high, right in front of the chest.
But the real secret isn't just paddle height, right? It's the grip tension.
Yes, tension is the absolute enemy of speed. Your grip must remain incredibly relaxed. The paddle should almost feel like it's floating in your fingers, and you only squeeze the handle at the exact millisecond of contact.
Because if your forearm is rigid and flexed while you wait for the ball,
Your muscles cannot fire dynamically.
a tight muscle is a slow muscle. And the text points out that the other half of this spear equation is braking. Being able to swing wildly doesn't matter if your paddle flies out of position and you can't recover.
Right, a fast hand that can't stop cleanly is just a brand new way to miss the next shot.
To train this deceleration, the guide details this really interesting off-court protocol using a push-pull resistance device called the isotone.
Yeah, and it isn't designed for bodybuilding or bulk, which is important to note.
Right, it targets the nervous system. The goal is to train a relax burst-release rhythm. You are waking up the upper body control system to go from a state of complete calm into an explosive muscular burst and then instantly break back into calm readiness.
It's all about rebuilding those neural pathways so the body literally knows how to hit the brakes.
And they pair that physical movement with a very specific breathing protocol. You take a quick, comfortable inhale on the explosive push and a longer, controlled exhale on the slower pull. If we look at the physiology behind that, it makes perfect sense. When people panic and try to move fast, what do? They hold their breath.
Always. And when you hold your breath, your diaphragm locks, your jaw clenches, and your shoulders hike up toward your ears.
Just instant tension everywhere.
Exactly. That stiffness travels right down your arm and kills your paddle speed. Training the quick inhale on exertion forces the nervous system to remain regulated. It keeps the tension out of the upper body, allowing for that explosive burst without the restrictive physical panic.
The guide also drops a very practical tip for tournament players regarding the isotone's warm massage function. It suggests you use it on the calves and forearms the absolute second you feel a cramp coming on.
Which is brilliant. It's treating the body like an intricate instrument that requires constant tuning, not a machine you just toggle on and off.
Which is exactly what allows you to survive long enough to actually use your offensive weapons.
Right.
Because once the nervous system is primed, we've built our bridge over the dead zone, and we're standing tall at the kitchen line, we have to actually finish the point. We have to transition from patient positioning to calculated aggression.
Time to go on the attack.
Exactly. The centerpiece of this is the single strike speed drive. But the text is clear. You don't just get frustrated and whack the ball. You need permission from the ball itself. You have to wait for what they call the green light ball.
And a green light ball is one that sits up above your knees, preferably waist high out in front of your body, and ideally you catch the opponent leaning.
Okay, so what's a red light ball then?
If the ball drops below the net cord or gets behind your hips, that is a red light ball. Attempting a speed drive on a red light ball completely defies physics. You will either smash it directly into the net or pop it up for an easy put away.
Okay, so let's assume I get that perfect green light ball, waist high, right in my strike zone. My immediate instinct is to look at the court, find the giant empty space where my opponent isn't standing, and blast it down the line.
Which is often a very low percentage fantasy against high-level players.
Wait, really? If the space is open, shouldn't I hit it there?
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but no. Because hitting into open space usually requires aiming dangerously close to the boundary lines. It drastically shrinks your margin of error.
So if I miss by an inch, it's out.
Exactly. If you miss your target by 2 inches, the ball goes out and you lose the point. The text introduces a different philosophy altogether. The body target ladder. You don't aim for the empty court, you aim directly at the opponent's anatomy.
So if I'm not aiming for the court, logic tells me I need to hit the ball exactly where their body physically cannot react in time. I'm guessing we are aiming at the joints that don't bend easily.
Precisely. And just to clarify up front, The text explicitly states to never aim for the head or face.
Right. This isn't about causing actual harm.
No, not at all. It's about targeting anatomical vulnerabilities. So you start at the bottom of the ladder, the outside foot. If an opponent is moving forward, a fastball diving at their feet literally stops their momentum. They cannot bend down fast enough, forcing a weak, popped-up block.
Okay, that makes sense. Moving up the ladder, the next target is the paddle side hip. I can completely see why that's devastating.
It's a nightmare to defend.
Because if a ball is flying at your right hip and you hold the paddle in your right hand, you get completely handcuffed. You don't have the microsecond required to decide whether to awkwardly dig it out with a forehand or try to jam a backhand into your own stomach.
Yeah, they just get jammed by their own equipment.
Yeah.
Higher up the ladder is the chicken wing shoulder area, the armpit zone on their paddle arm.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Try defending a ball flying at your dominant armpit. Your elbow flares out awkwardly, your shoulder internally rotates, and you lose all structural leverage. You just end up hitting a weak, panicked block. And of course, in doubles, you target that middle seam to force the sliding door we talked about to break.
But hitting a flat, hard ball at an opponent's hip from 14 feet away is incredibly risky. If you hit it completely flat, physics says it's either going to sail out of bounds or smash into the net. This is where the guide brings in what it calls table tennis DNA.
Yes, the spin.
Right, you can't just use speed, you have to use spin.
Spin is the mechanical bridge between speed and control. If you want to hit the ball hard and keep it in the court, you have to employ a topspin brush-up drive. As your paddle moves forward through the strike zone, the paddle face brushes violently up the back of the ball.
Creating high air pressure on top of the ball and low pressure underneath.
Exactly. That topspin grabs the air and forces a fast-moving ball to dive downward over the net. It clears the net cord safely, but then violently dips right down into those foot or hip targets on the body ladder.
So topspin is your aggressive diving weapon. But the guide also borrows another table tennis mechanic for the soft game, right? The power underspin drop.
Right, so if topspin makes a fastball dive, underspin makes a softball act like an absolute nightmare.
In what way?
Instead of brushing up, you take a compact forward motion and cut slightly under the bottom of the ball. It's not a wild, exaggerated chopping motion from your shoulder, though. It's a firm, controlled slice from the forearm.
So when that ball crosses the net with backspin and hits the ground inside the opponent's kitchen, it doesn't bounce up politely. The spin bites into the court surface, it skids.
It stays brutally low and might even check up and pounce backwards toward the net.
Which forces the opponent to reach down below the net cord and lift the ball upward just to get it over. And anytime you force your opponent to lift the ball, you have just manufactured the green light opportunity for your next attack.
Exactly, you're setting them up.
So what does this all mean when we put the whole arsenal together? We have topspin drives targeting the chicken wing, underspin drops skidding in the kitchen, patient dinks. But if the opponent can read your body language and see what you are going to do before you do it, all that spin is useless.
It really is.
We have to talk about the art of deception. I see players trying to be deceptive by looking left and hitting right, or making these wild theatrical fakes with their shoulders.
The guide heavily warns against that. That kind of theatrical clowning just ruins your own balance, timing, and structural integrity.
It's doing too much.
Exactly. Real deception on the pickleball court isn't about wildly faking. It's about absolute sameness. The core concept here is same look, late choice.
So my physical preparation for a soft, delicate dink over the net should look mechanically identical to my preparation for a blistering speed drive.
Identical down to the millimeter. You maintain the exact same quiet shoulders, the exact same paddle position elevated in front of your chest, the exact same relaxed facial expression. You give the opponent zero biometric data to read.
That sounds incredibly hard to pull off.
It takes practice. The text calls this technique the dink mask drive. You mask the incoming speed inside the quiet posture of a dink. You do not change your paddle angle or accelerate your forearm until the very last millisecond of contact.
Because if you drop your shoulder and take a massive backswing, you are telegraphing your intentions loudly. You're essentially screaming, I am about to hit this hard.
Giving them ample time to step back, plant their feet, and get their paddle ready to block.
The absolute best disguise is the complete absence of warning. Well, this has been an incredibly eye-opening deep dive. We've seen that pickleball, beneath the friendly plastic ball and the neighborhood barbecue reputation, is a beautiful, brutal game of physical truth.
It really is.
The ball simply doesn't care about your feelings. It only cares about your spatial position and paddle angle. We have mapped out why the kitchen line is the ultimate control room and the mathematical dangers of lingering in the dead zone. We explored the tactical bridges built by the two-bounce rule.
Which completely flips the script.
100%.
Okay.
We dismantled the myth of fast hands, replacing it with neuromuscular readiness, proper braking, and regulated breathing. And we unpacked the discipline, targeted aggression of the spin drive and the body target ladder.
This raises an important question for anyone listening, though. A spectacular, flashy winner is fun to watch, and it counts for 1 point. But a reliable, repeatable system, like consistently executing the third shot drop, maintaining a high paddle position, and sliding with your partner, that system counts forever.
It's about consistency.
Yet this text is about building a neuromuscular operating system, not just a highlight reel.
I think that's the perfect takeaway. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. The text makes a fascinating psychological point near the end. It states that your explosive speed drive actually becomes exponentially stronger when your opponent deeply respects your soft, patient dink game.
Oh, that's so true.
If they know you possess the discipline to patiently dink the ball 20 times in a row without making a mistake, that sudden explosive dink mass drive becomes completely paralyzing. It makes you wonder, in any competitive arena, whether it's in a boardroom negotiation, a debate, or on a sports field, is it possible that your most devastating, aggressive weapon isn't your loudest attack, but rather the silent, ever-present threat of it, perfectly hidden inside a polite, mundane defense?
Well-
Something to think about the next time you step onto the court. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Pickleball Court Intelligence. Take these geometric concepts, practice your neuromuscular braking, remember to manage your breathing under pressure, stay out of the highway median of the dead zone, and above all, keep playing smart. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.